Hello, YouTubers, friends, and patriots, bootlickers, shills, Nestle, search, spices, vassals. I'm a useful idiot. Today I want to talk about Afghanistan. So we now have this new agreement being worked on by John Kerry in the United States and Hamid Karzai in Afghanistan for when U.S. troops will leave Afghanistan. And as we knew, they're not going to be leaving anytime soon. And in fact, this new agreement says that they shall remain in force until the end of 2024 and beyond. So United States troops have been in Afghanistan for over a decade now, and they're putting in paper that it will be another decade, it will be another decade after that, because 30 years still won't be enough for Afghanistan not to be a failing state, would be my guess. And so right now they're negotiating between 10 and 15,000 U.S. troops, which means it'll probably be a lot more than that. And then, of course, the United States will continue to pay for the Afghanistan army, whatever that means. And the Afghan government can't even afford its own military. And so the United States will continue to keep them on the U.S. taxpayer tit. And then the Karzai government in Afghanistan, of course, want U.S. troops not to have immunity. And the United States does want them to have immunity for any of their actions in Afghanistan. And of course, there will be plenty of money and equipment for the Afghan military as well, besides U.S. troops. And there's a number of reasons why the U.S. will be in Afghanistan forever. And that's one of them is military bases that are strategically placed in the midst of Pakistan, Iran, China, and Russia. So we can't dispute the value of that logistically, particularly considering the U.S. is supposedly pivoting towards the east. And then we also have the exploding dark black prisons system in the shadow prison system that we have in Afghanistan that the CIA and the U.S. government likes to use. And once again, it's strategically located in that region. And then we also have a conduit for weapons to be supplied to all the different actors in the region, which the United States finds necessary, as well as to equip and train and sell spare parts to the Afghan military on a long-term basis. And then we also have the minerals, vast mineral supplies that are supposedly in Afghanistan, and those will be exploited at some point. And we've already had Chinese and Russian companies moving into Afghanistan, and they like this arrangement as well, because the United States will supply whatever security there is in Afghanistan in order for Russian and Chinese companies to function there. And then we have the poppy industry. The poppy industry has re-exploded. Under the Taliban, the poppy industry and the world heroin supply was decimated and practically non-existent, but now it's reached record levels again, and the Karzai government is heavily involved in that industry, as is the United States government, the CIA. So that's a cash cow in Afghanistan that we cannot overlook. But overall, I mean, what is of interest in the United States? We have another failed state with an extremely corrupt government run with fraud, nepotism, and greed. Karzai himself is known as the mayor of Kabul, because the only part of the country he even controls is Kabul. And we already know about the stories of piles of money being delivered by Iran, piles of money, Iran, piles of money being delivered by the CIA and the U.S. government, literally bags of cash being left for members of the government. And this is all part of a huge bribery system that holds Afghanistan together. The only thing that holds Afghanistan together as a country is bribery, because we have a system of warlords there that's been reinstated, and the corrupt government in Kabul uses CIA and American money basically to bribe all the warlords in order to participate in the illusion that there is a country there. And let's look at Karzai a little bit, his background. He comes from a political family. His father and grandfather were both involved in the Afghanistan government. Ultimately, they were supporters of the king. And then, interestingly enough, Hamid Karzai was a fundraiser for the Mujahideen during the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. So he worked with bin Laden and those sort of people. And in fact, Karzai himself was a CIA contractor as well. So you don't get much better puppets for a country like Afghanistan than somebody who used to be a CIA contractor. And then Karzai initially supported the Taliban because at least they brought some stability to the country. But he continued to work to reinstate the king, Zahir Shah. And then the Taliban assassinated Karzai's father, and that's when Karzai began to work with the Northern Alliance, the opposition that was funded by Iran against the central government. And so that's a little background on Karzai and his corrupt nature, and then his corrupt family in the government. And this is just a mafia, an Afghan mafia running Afghanistan. So the fact that the United States is going to continue its presence there for decades to come is going to be a sad affair. The money will be sent there for construction, which will continue to go on under U.S. supervision, as well as using their airspace for other operations in the area. And I found it rather interesting as well that, of course, in these new negotiations in this agreement, Karzai pointed out that the money would be, quote, managed by relevant Afghan institutions, unquote. So all the money that's sent to Afghanistan through both foreign aid to support the military, for bribing the warlords, for maintaining the Afghan government, all of it's filtered through Karzai and his cronies. So we have an extremely corrupt government here. I think there's a story about Karzai's brother being stopped at an airport flying out of Afghanistan with $52 million in cash on a plane, and it was cleared. So this is part of the modus operandi in the normal operations in Afghanistan. And this is the kind of country that we're going to be in for the next 10, 20, 30 years. Another failed state. Although there's talk now that perhaps these negotiations may break down, and that the United States will pull out of Afghanistan completely in 2014. And as far as the United States goes, that would probably be fine. But on the other hand, once again, we'd have another failed state that would descend into the kind of violence we see in Iraq. But isn't it interesting that the United States maintains this illusion that these countries are still supported, and we even go in there like we have in Iraq and build a native army and equip it and sell it weapons and train it and maintain a country, illusion that a country is holding together by maintaining some sort of military force. And that's what we're doing in Afghanistan as well. But that Afghanistan army, I'm sure, is less than effective and certainly less than loyal. And look at the fact that the United States is still supposedly equipping and training an army in Libya, a country that's completely already descended into chaos. So unfortunately, that seems to be our track record. So if we stay in Afghanistan, it will be a failed state. If we leave Afghanistan, it will be a failed state. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.